Socrates was one of the most important figures in Western philosophy, celebrated for his contributions to ethics, the theory of knowledge, and dialectical reasoning. Born in Athens, Greece, in 469 BC to a stonemason, Sophroniscus, and a midwife, Phanerit, Socrates likely received a basic education. Little is known about his childhood, but he served as a soldier in the Peloponnesian War. Socrates is best known for his method of questioning, now called the Socratic method, a form of dialectical inquiry aimed at uncovering assumptions and encouraging critical thinking. Unlike many philosophers of his time, Socrates wrote nothing down, and his ideas are known primarily through the works of his students, especially Plato. His philosophy revolved around the pursuit of wisdom and the belief that virtue is central to a meaningful life. He famously declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Socrates challenged the moral complacency and intellectual arrogance of his peers, advocating for self-knowledge and ethical introspection. His questioning often exposed contradictions in people's beliefs, earning him both admirers and critics. He rejected wealth and materialism, living modestly and engaging with Athenians in public spaces. In 399 BC, Socrates was tried and executed for allegedly corrupting the youth and being ungodly. He defended himself eloquently, refusing to abandon his principles, even if it meant saving his life. He accepted his death by drinking poison, becoming a martyr for free thought. Socrates profoundly influenced Western philosophy, shaping the work of Plato, Aristotle, and countless others. His emphasis on reason, dialogue, and ethical inquiry remained central to philosophy and education. Plato was a monumental figure in Western philosophy, a student of Socrates and the teacher of Aristotle. Born into a wealthy and influential Athenian family around 428 or 427 BC, his early life was marked by privilege and education in music, poetry, and gymnastics. The political turmoil of Athens during his youth, combined with the execution of his mentor, Socrates, deeply influenced Plato's philosophical outlook. Plato founded the Academy in Athens, one of the first institutions of higher learning in the Western world, where he taught and wrote extensively. His works, written as dialogues featuring Socrates as a central figure, explore topics such as ethics, politics, metaphysics, epistemology, and education. The Republic, one of his most famous works, presents his vision of a just society ruled by philosopher kings and outlines his theory of forms, which claims that the material world is a shadow of a higher, unchanging reality. Plato's philosophy emphasized reason, the pursuit of truth, and the importance of a virtuous life. His allegory of the cave illustrates the transformative power of education and philosophy, advocating for the enlightened to guide society. He also contributed significantly to discussions on the nature of knowledge, proposing that true understanding comes from contemplating eternal and perfect forms rather than relying on sensory experience. Plato's ideas laid the foundation for much of Christian theology, political theory, and philosophy. His academy remained a hub of intellectual activity for centuries, shaping thinkers like Aristotle. Plato died around 347 BC, and his works remain some of the most influential in history, inspiring debates on ethics, politics, and the nature of reality for over 2,000 years. Aristotle was a Greek philosopher whose work shaped Western thought across numerous disciplines, including science, ethics, politics, and metaphysics. Born in Stagira, a small town in northern Greece, in 384 BC, he was the son of Nicomachus, a physician to the Macedonian royal court. This early exposure to medicine and biology may have sparked his lifelong interest in the natural world. Orphaned as a child, Aristotle was raised by a guardian and sent to Athens at age 17 to study at Plato's academy, where he remained for 20 years. Although deeply influenced by Plato, Aristotle diverged from his teacher's ideas, emphasizing empirical observation and rejecting Plato's theory of forms. After Plato's death, Aristotle spent time traveling and conducting biological research, before being invited to tutor Alexander the Great in Macedonia. This role gave him access to resources and experiences that informed his later works. Around 335 BC, Aristotle returned to Athens and established the Lyceum, a school where he taught and conducted research in diverse fields, including logic, ethics, politics, rhetoric, biology, and physics. His methodical approach and insistence on systematic observation laid the groundwork for modern science. Key works include Nicomachean Ethics, which explores the concept of virtue and the good life, and Politics, a written work on governance and the organization of society. Aristotle's philosophy emphasized the importance of reason, moderation, and practical wisdom. He developed the idea of the golden mean, advocating for a balanced, virtuous life. He also proposed a comprehensive cosmology and theories of causation that influenced medieval and Renaissance thought. Aristotle died in 322 BC in Euboea, and his contributions to philosophy, science, and logic have had a profound impact, establishing him as one of history's greatest intellectual figures, earning him the title, the philosopher in the Middle Ages. Confucius, born as Kangqiu in the state of Lu, modern-day Shandun, China in 551 BC, was a Chinese philosopher whose teachings shaped the moral and social fabric of East Asia. Raised in modest circumstances, his father, a military officer, died when Confucius was young, leaving the family in poverty. Despite these challenges, Confucius developed a deep love for learning, studying history, music, and traditional religious practices. Confucius worked as a teacher, attracting disciples who sought his guidance on ethics, governance, and proper conduct. His philosophy centered on the cultivation of virtue, moral integrity, and the importance of harmonious social relationships. He emphasized 5 core virtues: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and faithfulness. These principles form the foundation of Confucianism, a system of thought that profoundly influenced Chinese society and governance. Confucius believed in the power of education to transform individuals and advocated for rulers to lead by example, practicing moral virtue rather than relying on coercion. He idealized a hierarchical but benevolent social order, with filial piety, respect for parents and ancestors as a cornerstone. His teachings were compiled after his death in 479 BC by his followers in a text known as the Annals. Confucius spent most of his life traveling between states, offering counsel to rulers, though his political ambitions were largely unfulfilled. Despite this, his ideas gained prominence after his death, especially during the Han Dynasty, when Confucianism became the state philosophy. Today, Confucius remains one of the most influential figures in world history, and his ideas continue to shape ethics, education, and governance in East Asia and beyond, promoting values of respect, duty, and harmony for thousands of years. Augustine of Hippo was an early Christian philosopher whose ideas significantly shaped Western Christianity and philosophy. Born on November 13, 354, in Thagist, modern-day Algeria, Augustine grew up in a Romanized North African family. His father, Patricius, was a pagan, while his mother, Monica, was a devout Christian who greatly influenced his later spiritual journey. As a youth, Augustine was highly intelligent but rebellious, indulging in pleasures and questioning religious doctrines. He studied rhetoric and philosophy in Carthage, where he encountered Cicero's writings and became captivated by the pursuit of truth. Dissatisfied with Christianity, he turned to Manichaeism, a dualistic religious sect, and later to Neoplatonism, which profoundly shaped his thoughts. Augustine's life took a transformative turn when he moved to Milan in 384, influenced by the sermons of Ambrose, the Bishop of Milan, and his mother's persistent prayers. Augustine converted to Christianity in 386. He was baptized by Ambrose in 387 and returned to Africa, where he founded a community of monks before becoming the Bishop of Hippo in 395. Augustine's major works include Confessions, an introspective spiritual autobiography, and The City of God, a defense of Christianity against Roman critics. His philosophical contributions focused on the nature of God, free will, and the problem of evil. He argued that humans are inherently sinful due to original sin, and emphasized divine grace as essential for salvation. By combining Christian doctrine with classical philosophy, particularly Neoplatonism, Augustine shaped medieval thought and laid the groundwork for Western theology. His ideas on faith, predestination, and the relationship between church and state have influenced countless philosophers. Augustine died on August 28, 430, during the siege of Hippo by the Vandals. His legacy endures as one of Christianity's most profound and influential thinkers. Thomas Aquinas was a Dominican monk and theologian whose integration of faith and reason profoundly influenced Western philosophy and Catholic theology. Born in Rocco Secca, Italy, in 1225 to a noble family, Aquinas was the youngest of 9 children. His family expected him to pursue a career in the church, but they initially opposed his decision to join the Dominican order, which valued poverty and wandering preaching. Despite strong family resistance, including imprisonment by his brothers, Aquinas remained committed to his calling. He studied in Naples, Paris, and Cologne, under renowned scholars like Albertus Magnus. He became deeply influenced by Aristotelian philosophy, which he sought to reconcile with Christian theology. His intellect earned him the nickname Angelic Doctor. One of his most significant works, Summa Theologica, is a comprehensive synthesis of Christian doctrine and Aristotelian philosophy. In this text, he addressed topics such as the existence of God, the nature of morality, and the relationship between faith and reason. Aquinas is best known for his 5 ways, a set of logical arguments for the existence of God, including the cosmological and teleological arguments. He believed that faith and reason are harmonious, with reason serving as a tool to understand divine truth. His ethical philosophy emphasized natural law, proposing that moral principles are rooted in human nature and discernible through reason. Aquinas' ideas shaped Catholic doctrine, influencing the development of scholasticism and serving as the foundation of modern Catholic education. In 1323, he was officially declared a doctor of the Church. His integration of philosophy and theology left a lasting impact on both religious and secular thought. His works continue to play a crucial role in discussions on metaphysics, ethics, and the relationship between science and religion, securing his place as one of history's greatest thinkers. Descartes was a French philosopher, mathematician, and scientist, often called the father of modern philosophy. Born in La Haye-en-Touraine, now Descartes, France, in 1596. He was the youngest of 3 children in a moderately wealthy family. His mother died when he was young, and he was primarily raised by his grandmother. Descartes was educated at the Jesuit College of Law, where he excelled in mathematics and classical studies, later earning a law degree from the University of Poitiers. He traveled extensively throughout Europe, served in the military, and engaged with scientific and philosophical communities. His groundbreaking philosophical ideas are laid out in works like Discourse on the Method and Meditations on First Philosophy. In these texts, Descartes sought a foundation for knowledge that could withstand doubt. His famous assertion, cogito ergo sum, which translates to, I think, therefore I am, established self-awareness as the first certainty. Descartes emphasized rationalism, arguing that reason and mathematics provide the foundation for understanding the natural world. He developed Cartesian dualism, suggesting a distinction between mind and body, an idea that had profound implications for philosophy, psychology, and science. In mathematics, Descartes introduced the Cartesian coordinate system, merging algebra and geometry, which became foundational for modern calculus and analytical geometry. His work in optics, physics, and anatomy also advanced scientific understanding. In 1649, Descartes moved to Sweden to tutor Queen Christina, but the harsh climate affected his health, leading to his death from pneumonia in 1650. His influence on philosophy, science, and mathematics, particularly his method of doubt, emphasis on reason, and dualistic framework reshaped intellectual thought, laying the groundwork for the Enlightenment and modern scientific inquiry. His legacy endures as a central figure in Western philosophy. John Locke was an English philosopher whose ideas on empiricism, government, and individual rights profoundly influenced modern thought and political systems. Born in Rington, Somerset, in 1632, Locke was raised in a Puritan household. His father, a lawyer and soldier, ensured that he received a strong education. He attended Westminster School and later studied philosophy, medicine, and the natural sciences at Christ Church, Oxford. Locke's interest in medicine led him to work with prominent scientists, including Robert Boyle and Thomas Sydenham, and he became a Fellow of the Royal Society. His political career began when he became secretary to Anthony Ashley Cooper, the Earl of Shaftesbury, a relationship that deeply influenced his political philosophy. Locke's most significant works include an essay concerning human understanding, where he argued that the mind is a blank slate at birth, tabula rasa, and that knowledge is derived from experience through sensory perception and reflection. This idea laid the foundation for empiricism and challenged the notion of innate ideas. In his 2 treatises of government, Locke advanced the concept of natural rights such as life, liberty, and property, arguing that governments must derive their power from the consent of the governed. These ideas were revolutionary, opposing absolute monarchy and justifying resistance to tyrannical rule. Locke's philosophy profoundly influenced the Enlightenment, shaping modern liberalism, constitutionalism, and theories of education, as expressed in some thoughts concerning education. His political theories directly inspired the American and French revolutions. Influencing documents like the U.S. Declaration of Independence, John Locke died in 1704 in England, leaving behind a legacy as one of history's most influential political and philosophical thinkers. The past is full of secrets, and there's so much more to explore. Subscribe now to Spectral History, and join me in unraveling the mysteries of history.